Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. So last class we were studying verse number 11, and in that verse it was said, Dvandvani sarvani akilas triputyaha kinchit samashritya vibhanti vastu tanmargane syāt galitam samastam na pashyatam satchalanam kadapi. So all these pairs and triads, they all shine, but taking the support of some entity. And once you search, inquire into what that is, all these divisions, all this duality and this triad, everything will drop. And to those who see that, they will never waver on all that. So, the pursuit of jnanam, that is the primary sadhana. Because samsara is caused by duality. Duality is caused by ignorance. And so, ignorance is the root of the problem. Therefore, to root out the problem, knowledge is the only solution. That is the point that was made. As we have seen, in Atma-bodha, vidyā avidyāṁ nihantyeva tejas timira sangavat. If darkness is the problem, only light is the solution. If you are in a dark room, you cannot sweep away the darkness with a broom. You cannot say, I will chant Vishnu Sahasranama and remove it. Vishnu Sahasranama is great, no question, but it cannot remove darkness. You have to bring a light. Similarly, ignorance is the internal darkness and it cannot be removed any other way but only through the light of knowledge. So what should one do? Gain jnanam. That's all. Gain the knowledge. This idea, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi adds with a twist. It's the same thing, but there is a little bit of twist to this idea. Let us see. Verse number 12. Vidyā kathaṁ bhāti na cedavidyā. Vidyā kathaṁ bhāti na cedavidyā. Vidyāṁ vinā kim pratibhātyavidyā. Vidyāṁ vinā kim pratibhātyavidyā. dvayaṁ kasyeti vicārya mūla. dvayaṁ kasyeti vicārya mūla. svarūpa niṣṭhā parmārtha vidyā. svarūpa niṣṭhā parmārtha vidyā. Together. Vidyā kathaṁ bhāti na cedavidyā. Vidyāṁ vinā kim pratibhātyavidyā. dvayaṁ kasyeti vicārya mūla. svarūpa niṣṭhā parmārtha vidyā. So in this verse, he says, jnanam, even jnanam is a relative entity falling within duality. Jnanam, which is opposed to ajnanam, so that ajnanam can be removed only by jnanam, no question about it. But even that falls under the purview of relativity only, duality only. So when you look at it this way, jnanam is also mithya. You can never conceive of jnanam without thinking of ajnana. You cannot conceive of ajnanam without the idea of jnanam. They go together. Therefore, knowledge and ignorance also come under dvandva, duality. No question, they are mutually exclusive. So the presence of one presupposes the absence of the other. Arrival of one will displace the other. Therefore, ultimately, jnanam is also mithya, part of illusion, falsity. Then what should we do? Initially, we pursue jnanam and destroy ajnanam. At that time, jnanam will be there, but even that we should disown. Because to claim I am a jnani is a form of ahankara. So Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, I tell you, he is something. He gets into the root of the problem. He doesn't stop anywhere till that time. So, even that jnanam you got to disown. Do not claim you are a jnani. Finally, you say, I am the adhisthana of both ajnanam and jnanam. I am different from both. Both do not belong to me. Then who am I? Vidyā, avidyā, dvandva, adhisthānam, ahamasmi. Shankaracharya says in Manisha Panchakam. Aham brahmaiva na brahmavit. I am that Brahman, I am not the knower of Brahman. Society may say I am a jnani out of ignorance. But I am not a jnani also. Then are you a jnani? No, I am not an ajnani either. They are all both in the relative plane. Vyavaharika drishya. I was an ajnani before and then became a jnani. It is all in the transactional plane. But paramārtika drishya, from the absolute, I am neither. I am the Atma that is beyond jnanam and ajnana. Therefore, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says in the first line that both ajnanam and jnanam belong to the pair of opposite. Dvandva only. They both belong to the relative world. Therefore, they are also only. Yeah, if vidya is also mithya, why should I get it? Vidya is needed to eliminate midya avidya. So don't say if it is also mithya, why should I get that knowledge? No. You need that to eliminate that avidya which is mithya, and that can be eliminated only through this illusory jnanam. But once you get there, you have to disown both of them. Very simple example, when you bathe, you apply soap to remove all the dirt and all that you accumulated. But once the soap does its job, you wash off the soap also. You cannot say, oh soap, you are so good, you removed all the dirt. Let me hang on to you. No. So vidya is the soap. Use it to remove avidya, the dirt, and then get rid of that vidya also. So he talks about the relative nature of vidya. He asks, vidyā kathaṁ bhāti? How can one visualize or conceive of knowledge? Avidyā na ched, if ignorance were not there. Similarly, the other way also. Vidyāṁ vinā avidyā pratibhātikam. Can you conceive of ignorance without the concept of knowledge? They both are interdependent. Does the sun ever know darkness? Does the sun know night? No. If you do not know what is night, how can you conceive of day? And vice versa. You can think of day only because you know night. You think of night because you know the day. A totally blind person does not see daylight, and so there is no day for him. There is no night for him either. Even the word darkness is meaningless for that blind person. We normally think light is meaningless to the blind. But darkness is the same for him. Only we can talk about light and dark. A blind person is beyond both. Can you conceive of ignorance without the concept of knowledge? And vice versa? No. Therefore, dvayaṁ ca kasyeti vicārya. Vicārya, inquire. One should inquire into where or to what this pair, dvayaṁ, belongs to. Ask what is the adhisthana, what is the substratum of this dvandva, what is the substratum of this duality, what is the substratum of for all these pairs, including vidyā and avidyā. Inquire into that. Here again, Bhagavan advises inquiry, but he's silent about the procedure. How do you go about doing the inquiry? He does not talk about it. So we know. We've already seen. We have to add this Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, Rupa, Vicārya. You have to do this. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, all that. So that is the proper inquiry. Such an inquiry will lead to the mūla svarūpa niṣṭhā. Then you will abide in that mūla svarūpa, the adhisthana chaitanyam. So that abidance in the truth. At that time you are beyond jnanam and ajnana. That is abiding in the knowledge that I am the adhisthana. Abiding in knowledge means not forgetting it, ever having that vision. That is the niṣṭhā. Already talked about niṣṭhā in an earlier verse. Non-forgetfulness of knowledge, not forgetting that knowledge is ever available to you. Even use several examples, like how you remember your name, phone number, whether you are a man or a woman, all that. Do you ever forget? No. Always with you. You don't have to keep reminding you. You do not have to keep doing japa on all this data. Effortlessly, you will be able to recall them at any time. Accessibility of this jnana is jnana niṣṭhā. That knowledge here is that I am the adhisthana. I support both vidya and avidya. I support knowledge and ignorance. I am the substratum upon which this vidya and avidya plays. I am that Brahman. I am that Atma that is beyond both. both knowledge and ignorance are associated with ahankara. That ahankara said, I am ignorant, I am a jnani, and then did all their Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. After Shravana Manana especially, got convinced in that knowledge and then says, now I am jnani. That is another feather in that cap of that ahankara. But for Atma, nothing. It's not associated. This is parmārtha-vidyā. This is the ultimate knowledge. This knowledge that I am not the knower. I am the Atma. I am the Brahman that supports this knowledge. That is the real knowledge. This point is beautifully brought out in this verse. That vision you should have, and that is what? Saddarsanam. Continuing verse number 13. Boddhāramātmānamjānato yaha. Boddhāramātmānamjānato yaha. Bodhasya kim syāt parmārtha-bodhe. Bodhasya kim syāt parmārtha-bodhe. Bodhasya bodhyasya cha saṁśrayaṁ svaṁ. Bodhasya bodhyasya cha saṁśrayaṁ svaṁ. vijānatastad vitayaṁ vinashyet. vijānatastad vitayaṁ vinashyet. boddhāramātmānamjānato yaha. bodhasya kim syāt parmārtha-bodhe. bodhasya bodhyasya saṁśrayaṁ svaṁ. vijānatastad vitayaṁ vinashyet. So after talking about the falsity of Dvandva, the duality in the last verse, we come to the falsity of Triputi, the triad. Okay, there, Jnanam, Ajnanam, the duality was taken, and that was the falsity of that was talked about. Now the Triputi. In verse number 11, both duality and Triputi was talked about. Here he is addressing the Triputi, the triad. Knower, known, and the knowledge. So here Ramana Maharshi talks about the glory of self-knowledge, and he says that the entire humanity takes itself for granted. Everybody takes oneself for granted without asking the question, who am I really? Without understanding oneself, everyone is going on after the knowledge of anatma after anatma. We have so many sciences: physics, chemistry, astronomy, astrophysics, biology, biochemistry, microbiology, virology, whatever it say, so many arts and sciences. I want to know this, I want to do that, I want to be a visual artist, I want to be a performance artist. The list goes on and on and on. We go to the smallest subjects and study them. We go to the biggest and investigate about it. But the investigator is never investigated into. The inquirer is never inquired into. So Bhagavan says, without knowing about oneself, knowing about everything else is a fruitless pursuit. Therefore he says, Atmanam ajanatah. He who does not know himself using Mundaka Upanishad language, without knowing para-vidyā, when a person is inquiring into apara-vidyā all the time, all the objective science inquiry is a waste. For atmanamjānato, that person, yathā-bodhe, the knowledge of all other things, any number of degrees and diplomas he may have, all that is not true knowledge. Naraji makes a statement, right? After knowing all these 64 colors, I am still at a loss. Like that. Shankaracharya also says elsewhere, apara vidyā hi avidyā. Apara vidyā is as good as avidya. Ignorance only. So, saha parmārtha bodhaḥ kim syāt. Can it be said to be real knowledge? They all cannot be real knowledge. Absolute knowledge, they cannot be. They are all only relative knowledge. That's all. What is that Atma? Boddhāramātmānam. That Atma alone, which always plays the role of a knower in all fields, be it science, art, finance, economics, whatever. Atma alone functions as the knower. And without knowing that knower, you are trying to know everything. Trying to know everything else. That is useless. Why do we say everything is useless? Two reasons. One reason is the reason of anatma and anatma being mithya or false. The knowledge of an unreal thing is not going to be a great knowledge. Therefore, it is invalid, not useful. The second reason is anatma jnana will not free an individual from the sense of limitation. And that is the problem of samsara. Physicists, the material scientists, are investigating so much into the cause of the universe. Where did this world come from? And they have proposed so many things and they have made great strides. Cause of this is that, cause of this is that. They have gone from huge things down into subatomic particles, etc., etc. They have explained this is how that comes about. And all that. Such investigations they have done. Very fascinating also. No question about it. But they are still in that problem of the anatma only, in the field of anatma only. Any amount of that will not give them the relief. Sometimes investigating into all this and knowing such things will make you more miserable. Suppose I am poor. And knowing that Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, they are trending to be trillionaires. From being multi-billionaires, they are going to be trillionaires. That knowledge, that will make me more miserable only. So sometimes all this investigation and knowing more and more about this anatma will get me into more and more trouble only. Funny interpretation for ignorance is bliss. Knowing all that, gets me into trouble only. So the problem centered around I can be solved only by inquiring into I. This is the theme. Bhagavan has said it in different ways. Without that self-inquiry, I am wasting my time. So any amount of such knowledge is a non-liberating knowledge. It is knowledge of mithya. Well, what something is not real, getting more and knowing more and more about it, what good is that? Where is it going to take you? On the other hand, what is real knowledge? It is the knowledge of I, who is putting on the costume of knower. That knower is also a Vesha only. I am the knower. So you have to go beyond that. Knower, known, and the knowledge. Knowledge, we already talked about the jnanam itself. You got to go beyond that. Here, the knower also, and then known. So, svaṁ vijānatah, for one who gains the knowledge of svaṁ, svarūpam, one's own nature, that Atma Svarūpa, that is saṁśrayaṁ, the locus, the support, ashrayam, the support of bodhasya, bodhyasya. All the knowledge and the objects of knowledge. What is the support? Atma is the adhisthana of all the knowledge as well as the objects. So bodhasya, bodhyasya, adhisthana svarūpam vijānatah, one who gains that, tad dvayaṁ vinashyet, that will destroy, then both the bodha and bodhya will get falsified. Simple example, upon waking up, the dream objects are falsified. Then the knowledge of the dream objects also gets falsified. Incidentally, the dreamer also gets falsified. So in a dream, I have projected everything. I have become the dreamer, and as the dreamer, I get the experience of the various dream objects. So in that dream, the Tripudi is there, the dreamer is there, the dream objects are there, and the dreamer is experiencing the dream objects. But when you get out of the dream, when you come back to the waking state, when you are the waker, the dream objects are gone, the dream experience is gone. So, bodhasya, bodhyasya. And then the dreamer is also gone. So, the waker is beyond the Tripudi. In the same way, I cannot be called the dreamer anymore once I get out of the dream. Similarly, here I cannot be called the knower either. I lose my knowerhood also. So what is left behind? Who is left behind? The consciousness that is beyond the Tripudi, that is beyond the knower, the known, and the knowledge, that alone is left behind. Therefore, the conclusion is, instead of inquiring into anatma, the not self, inquire into atma, the self, the subject. Subject inquiry should be the subject. Once you get that perspective, that is the right perspective. That is parmārtha-bodhe. And that is Saddarsanam. Oh, nothing is seen, nothing is known, nothing. I got it. What? Sleep. Sleep is the state of knowledge. Sleep is the state of enlightenment. Parmārtha-bodhe. No. Let us see now. Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi has been stressing the importance of Atma-vidyā, Sad-vidyā, Saddarsanam, by which one destroys the self-ignorance and indirectly destroys the ahankara, the false I, the limited I, the individual. By destroying the ahankara, the duality in the form of subject-object also is consequently destroyed, because only in the presence of ahankara, the objective world is there, called dvandva or triputi. So, ajnana nashaha, ahankara nashaha, dvandva nashaha, triputi nashaha, and therefore samsara nashaha. This is the route map presented by Bhagwan. Now in the next verse, he will talk about the uniqueness of Brahma Vidya, how it is different from all other forms of knowledge, how Para-vidya is different from Apara-vidya, how Atma-vidya, Brahma-vidya is different from Anatma-vidya. A beautiful verse. Let us see. Verse number 14. Nidrā-na-vidya grahaṇam na-vidya. Nidrā-na-vidya grahaṇam na-vidya. Grihnāti kiñcana parmārtha-bodhe. Grihnāti kiñcana parmārtha-bodhe. nidrā-padārtha-grahaṇetarā syāt. nidrā-padārtha-grahaṇetarā syāt. Cidevidyā vilasanya shunyā. Cidevidyā vilasanya shunyā. Nidrā-na-vidya grahaṇam na-vidya. Grihnāti kiñcana padārtha-bodhe. nidrā-padārtha-grahaṇetarā syāt. cidevidyā vilasanya shunyā. What is the uniqueness of Brahma Vidya? First, we should remember that when we gain any worldly vidya or worldly knowledge, it is a process in which the intellect grasps something. That something may be an object, or a person, or a situation, or even a concept of the mind. Can be gross objects, can be subtle thoughts. So knowledge means grasping something, and in Sanskrita the word is grahanam. Normally grahanam is done by hands. But in the case of knowledge, it is by the intellect. Even in English, we use the phrase, right? I grasped the idea, meaning my intellect understands the idea. Here he says, Brahma Vidya is unique, is a unique Vidya in which the intellect does not grasp anything. Unlike any other knowledge, Brahma Vidya is Vidya in which the intellect does not grasp anything new, either in the form of an object, or a person, or a situation, or concept. It is neither a gross object or a subtle object. So he says, vidyā na grahanam. Brahma Vidya is not grasping something new. Therefore, drop the idea of looking for something unique substance called Brahman. After several years of study, meditation, etc., you will grasp something new as Brahman. But don't have any such expectations. There is no grasping in Brahma Vidya. So he explains, yathārtha-bodhe kinchit na grihnāti. Yathārtha means Brahman. The reality, yathārtha-bodhe, in Brahma Vidya, in Brahma Jnanam, kinchit na grihnāti. The wise person does not grasp anything with intellect. Then there may be a doubt. Brahma Vidya is that in which one does not grasp anything, then it should be a blank state of mind. Is it a thoughtless state like sleep, nidrā? In nidrā, sleep also, one does not grasp anything. It is a total state of blankness. Your eyes are not seeing anything, your ears are not hearing anything, you are not thinking of anything, nothing. All the senses are turned off. Is it that state? No, no, no. Ramana Maharshi dismisses that idea by saying, nidrā na vidyā. Sleep is not that kind of Brahman Vidya. Brahma Vidya is not a state of blankness or stillness or anything. It is not a state of thoughtlessness. If it were, sleep will become Brahma Vidya. You are very close to Brahman, no question. Sleep is a state of no thoughts, but that is not Brahma Vidya. Grasping is not Brahma Vidya, so also non-grasping. So in sleep, there is this non-grasping. You are not grasping anything. Perception is not Brahma Vidya. Non-perception is also not Brahma Vidya. In deep sleep, there is non-perception of everything. You're not perceiving anything. Knowing is not Brahma Vidya. Not knowing is not Brahma Vidya. Objectification is not Brahma Vidya. Non-objectification is not Brahma Vidya. Then what is Brahma Vidya? So he says, nidrā-padārtha-grahaṇetarā syāt. Brahma Vidya is itara. Grahana itara syāt. Something different from both nidra, state of non-grasping, state of blankness or no thoughts, and also padartha, Grahanam, grasping something, it is beyond both. Then what is Brahma Vidya? He said, Chideva. Chit, it is consciousness alone. Chit eva, Chideva Vidya. Brahma Vidya is Chit itself. Chaitanyam is Brahma Vidya. It is neither grasping nor non-grasping, but it is consciousness itself. This creates more confusion. If you say consciousness itself is Brahma Vidya, then each and every one of us is a conscious being. Everybody has consciousness. Then everybody has Brahma Vidya. Then everybody must be liberated. Then why should one gain jnana yogyata, then do jnana yoga, do shravana, manana, nididhyasana, gain that jnanam? Chideva Vidya is a figurative expression. Do not take it literally. So let us try to understand what this Brahma Vidya is. It is not grasping anything, okay? It is not a thoughtless state, okay? It is not grasping anything, non-grasping. It is not that either. Then Brahma Vidya is dropping all misconceptions. Avidya janya adhyasa nivritihi is Brahma Vidya. Avidya janya, ignorance born. Adhyasa, all these superimpositions that we have that are born out of ignorance, nivritihi, removing that. That is Brahma Vidya. There are primarily twofold misconceptions. Dropping these misconceptions takes place by a rise of a thought in the mind. In Brahma Vidya, one drops these two misconceptions by a thought that arises in the teaching. It is not a state of no thought, it is not grasping something new, but it is a state of mind in which a thought arises in the mind, and the thought is generated by Vedanta Shravanam. And the thought removes two important misconceptions. This misconception removing thought generation is Brahma Vidya. What is the thought? That Aham Brahma Asmi. I am Brahman thought. At the time of Brahma Vidya, I do not have a thoughtless mind. It has a very unique thought. Aham Brahma Asmi. Through this unique thought, which is called the knowledge of Brahman, the first misconception that I am a jiva, different from Brahman, is dropped. This is called dropping the abrahmatva misconception. The notion that I am not Brahman, that is dropped. The second notion to go is that Brahman is an object to be grasped. When I say Aham Brahmasmi, I do not get hold of Brahman. I drop the notion that Brahman is to be grasped. Brahman is the very subject that grasps everything. Brahman is not a graspable object, but it is a grasping object. This Aham Brahma Asmi Vritti is called Brahma Vidya. So Brahma Vidya is Mithya Pratyaya Nivartaka Vritti Jnanam. Brahma Vidya is a cognition, a thought which eliminates the two misconceptions. One, that I am not a Brahman, and two, that Brahman is an object to be grasped. Bhagavan just puts this traditional definition a little bit differently, that's all. and says Chideva Vidya. Consciousness itself is Brahma Vidya. Why he says so will become clear in the next verse. So, Chideva Vidya, Brahma Vidya is the very consciousness itself. This is Vilasanti Ashunya, is self-effulgent and is not void. Ashunya, don't take it to be Shunya, it's not void. So this is where we differ from the Buddhists. They do all this and come to Shunya. No, don't make that mistake. Chideva Vidya, consciousness, which is the pure being, this shines, Vilasanti. It's ever there. This is called Vidya, and when you know this, you may be in waking state or dream state or deep sleep state, still you are in a state of knowledge. If you do not know this, regardless of how much else you know, and wherever you are in ignorance only. There are many people who go on insisting on non-perception of the world. Non-perception of the world is not a state of knowledge. The question is, do you know what is the substratum of this world? Do you know who is the illuminator of the world? Knowing that substratum as the illuminator, and that is me, that is the knowledge. Therefore, you see this world or you do not see this world, makes no difference. Chideva Vidya Vilasanti is svaṁ prakāṣah. I am that self-shining consciousness. I am Purnam, complete. This is the conclusion. This is what we need to get to. And this is what? Saddarsanam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.